50,000 years ago, a man stepped out of the forest and into the firelight of a stranger's camp. He didn't know these people. He didn't speak their language. He had no weapons drawn, no gifts in hand. Just a body, 2 eyes, a posture. Within seconds, the people around that fire made a decision that would determine whether he lived or died. And here is what modern science has confirmed: they were not guessing. They were reading him. Processing signals so ancient, so precise, that even today, in a job interview, at a first date, across a crowded room, your brain is running the exact same calculation. Faster than thought. Faster than language. The question is not whether this happens. The question is, what exactly were they reading? And how accurate were they? The answer will change how you see every human being you have ever trusted. That man at the edge of the firelight was not alone in his danger. The people watching him were in just as much danger from him. This is the fundamental problem of ancient human life. Every stranger was a potential threat. Every extended hand could hide a blade. Every smile could be a lure. And yet, isolation was death. You needed alliances, trade, marriage, information about where the herds were moving. So early humans were caught between 2 forces pulling in opposite directions. They needed to open up. And they needed to survive. The brain they developed to navigate this was not built for comfort. It was built for speed. Because in the savannah, in the forest, in the frozen tundra, a slow trust decision was often a final one. The mechanism they evolved to solve this? It ran in the first fraction of a second. And it was ruthlessly efficient. But it was not infallible. That tension, between speed and accuracy, is the story of every human relationship ever formed. The face arrives before the voice. Before the handshake, before the words, the face has already transmitted hundreds of micro-expressions, each lasting less than 1/5 of a second. Your ancestors were expert readers of these signals. They had to be. A furrowed brow held a fraction of a second too long meant something different from one that passed and released naturally. A smile that reached the eyes was metabolically expensive to fake. A jaw that clenched and relaxed betrayed suppressed aggression. Researchers at the University of Glasgow mapped these signals and found that the human face can produce over 10,000 distinct configurations. But only a fraction of those configurations carry the information that actually mattered to survival: threat, submission, alliance, grief. The brain does not consciously catalog these. It compresses them into a gut feeling. A sense. An instant knowing. What feels like intuition is actually ancient pattern recognition. The same recognition system your ancestors used at that firelight is the reason you sometimes know someone is lying before they have finished their sentence. Before the face, there is the body. And the body almost never lies. When a person is genuinely relaxed, their movements are fluid, slightly asymmetrical, and uncalculated. When a person is performing relaxation, pretending to be calm, to be unthreatening, to be at ease, the movements become subtly mechanical. Slightly too controlled. The stillness becomes a kind of stiffness. Your ancestors could feel this difference. The best way to understand why is to think about what the body does when it is actually preparing for violence. The cortisol spikes. The muscles contract toward the core. The breath shallows. The weight shifts forward onto the balls of the feet. None of this is a decision. It is biology. And biology, when it moves through a human body in preparation for harm, leaves a trace. A ripple. Something that lands in the observer's nervous system before their conscious mind has time to interpret it. This is why certain people make the hair on your neck rise. You are not imagining it. You are reading a signal that has been legible to human beings for 50,000 years. Sight fails in the dark. So evolution gave us a second channel. The human voice carries information that words cannot contain. Pitch, rhythm, breathiness, the speed of onset, the presence or absence of tremor, these are not accents or affectations. They are physiological readouts of the autonomic nervous system. A voice that is warm because the face muscles surrounding the vocal apparatus are relaxed. A voice that sounds thin or strained is that way because the laryngeal muscles are constricted by stress. Vocal researchers call this leakage, the body's internal state leaking through the voice in ways the speaker cannot fully control. Princeton psychologists found that subjects who heard only the first 200 milliseconds of a stranger's voice rated their trustworthiness, dominance, and warmth in ways that aligned strongly with longer exposures. 200 milliseconds. Less than the duration of a single heartbeat. And in that sliver of time, an evaluation was already complete. Ancient humans knew this. They tested the voice before they tested the words. In many ways, they were right too. The fastest trust signal of all was not a face, not a voice, not a body. It was a name. Reputation in ancient tribes was not social currency in some metaphorical sense. It was actual survival infrastructure. It determined who hunted with you, who shared food with you, who would come if you screamed in the night. Evolutionary anthropologists studying small-scale societies found that social reputation is typically transmitted across an entire band within 48 hours. A single act of betrayal did not stay secret. It radiated outward. And the person who betrayed a trust did not simply lose one relationship. They lost access to the entire network. This is why gossip is universal. Every culture on Earth gossips. Anthropologists who went looking for societies without gossip could not find one. Because gossip is not frivolous. It is the operating system of social trust. The peer-reviewed feedback mechanism that lets a tribe know, in advance, what a person is likely to do. The stranger at the Firelight may have been unknown. But if someone in that tribe knew his tribe, the evaluation had already begun. Here is where the science becomes genuinely disturbing. Your brain has a dedicated system for detecting cheaters. Not liars in general, specifically cheaters. People who take benefits from a social contract without contributing to it. The psychologist Leda Cosmides demonstrated this in a series of logic experiments. When people were given abstract logical problems, their accuracy was mediocre. But when the exact same logical structure was framed as a social contract violation, someone breaking an agreed rule, someone taking without giving, accuracy increased dramatically. The brain shifts into a different mode entirely. Cosmides concluded this was not a general reasoning upgrade. It was a domain-specific adaptation. A module. An ancient subprogram running beneath conscious thought, watching every social exchange for the signature pattern of exploitation. This system is so sensitive it sometimes produces false positives. It detects betrayal where none exists. It poisons relationships with suspicion that is not earned. And yet evolution kept it, because the cost of missing a real cheater was far greater than the cost of wrongly suspecting an honest person. That calculus is still running inside you. Right now. In every social exchange you have today. Touch was the final test. In ancient human societies, before trade could happen, before alliance could be sealed, there was always a moment of physical contact. Among many cultures, this took the form of grasping the arm, touching the hand, making skin-to-skin contact that could be felt, that could be read. Skin tells a story that eyes and ears cannot access. Temperature, moisture, the firmness of a grip, the presence or absence of tremor. These signals were processed instantly and automatically. A hand that was cold and sweating told a different story than one that was warm and dry. A grip that was too firm signaled dominance aggression. One that was limp signaled either submission or concealment. Researchers at the Weizmann Institute found that after a handshake, humans unconsciously sniff their own hand. We are sampling the chemical signal of the person we just touched, their stress hormones, their immune markers, even their genetic compatibility. You thought the handshake was a greeting. It is a laboratory test that has been running for 50,000 years. The system worked. For tens of thousands of years, it worked. And then everything changed. Cities appeared. Populations scaled beyond the 200 people a human brain evolved to track. The internet arrived. And suddenly, the ancient trust architecture was being asked to evaluate people it would never touch, never smell, never hear speak in real time. The result is a crisis no one officially named but everyone instinctively feels. Online, the channels that carry betrayal signals, body language, vocal tremor, microexpression, touch, are stripped away entirely. What remains is text, and text is infinitely malleable. Anyone can write anything. The biological markers of deception cannot leak through a screen. So the brain improvises. It applies ancient heuristics to modern contexts in ways that misfire constantly. It trusts faces it finds attractive. It trusts voices that sound familiar. It trusts opinions that confirm what it already believes. Not because these are accurate signals, but because they are the closest approximation the ancient system can find in an environment it was never designed to navigate. The cheetah detection system, built for a tribe of 200, is now trying to process 8 billion strangers. We return now to that man at the edge of the fire. He survived that night. We know this because you exist. Every human alive today descended from people who made enough correct trust decisions to survive long enough to have children. The ancient system, imperfect, biased, sometimes catastrophically wrong, was nonetheless good enough to keep the lineage going. But the world has changed faster than evolution can follow. And so the work that once happened automatically, invisibly, in the body, must now happen consciously, deliberately, in the mind. The signals are still there. The microexpressions still move across faces. The voice still leaks. The handshake still carries chemistry. But you have to slow down enough to read them, rather than override them with narrative, with wishful thinking, with the bias of attraction or familiarity. The man at the firelight did not get to decide what signals to read. He read everything, because everything was available to him. You do not always have that luxury. But you have something he did not. You have the knowledge of the system itself. And knowledge of the system is the beginning of its mastery. The question is not whether you can trust your instincts. The question is whether you have learned, yet, to tell the difference between an instinct and a bias. That distinction, ancient and modern, wired and chosen, is the most human thing there is.